Hello, everyone, and welcome to TFYLP, episode number 318, recorded February 9th, 2019. I'm your host, Ron Land, a.k.a. Weird Wolf. Along with me this evening is my girlfriend, Melissa. Also joining us is Jim Black.
Hi, everyone.
And his wife, Amy. And just in time, look at this. Anna joins us, too.
Perfect.
Literally, we just now are going through the introductions.
Oh, okay.
So we are live. And also Lucas Bachman.
Hey.
Tonight's episode, we got a very special episode. As you can see, Jim and I, we have our significant others with us. And if you remember, a couple years ago, what was it, episode 216, was it, Jim?
I believe so, yeah.
Episode 216 of TFYLP, we had our very first version of this episode. Several of us had our significant others on there, and it was her idea. Yeah, she came up with the idea to do this. And it actually was one of our most popular episodes that we had to date, and it still remains so. The subject that we're covering tonight is sort of along those lines, but at the same time, we're going to try to cover a little different ground as well. Simply for the reason that, life's not always a bed of roses, as a collector. We, as collectors, may make sure, before I get started, I do want to get... Well, let me refresh this. The YouTube comments are all the joys of live broadcasting.
TV.
Yeah. Live TV here.
That's us.
Yes. Okay. We are broadcasting live on Facebook Live and on YouTube. So people can hear you. Yes. So why is that not working? YouTube comments are not working. This is great.
Here, let me test them.
Do want to get this out there. So.
Oh, it's back.
It's back. It is back.
I think it's good on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, it's... it says... Okay, let me redo this. Well, while I'm doing this, Lucas, you want to kind of give a little overview of what our goals are tonight?
Yeah, so I think tonight we really just want to have a focus on what our significant others think about the hobby, both good and bad, and what kind of what they think, how they've been supportive of your hobby, throughout the years. Have their thoughts changed? All that type of thing. So some of us also their spouses. I spoke with my spouse before the episode to kind of get her thoughts and collect that, but she didn't want to be on the episode directly, but she is definitely supportive of my hobby as well. So,
and we'll go a little bit more into depth on that whenever we get going. And there it is. It's back. Yay! But we'll get a little bit more in depth whenever we get to that. And quite frankly, some of our spouses don't want to be on video, and I mean, as far as they're concerned, this is our stupid little thing that we do. Anna, can you relate?
I can relate. Maybe the word stupid was lighthearted by comparison.
Stupid, huh? As in...
He may have used stronger language, is what I'm saying.
Well, I guess I'm trying to figure out the words how I want to put this. Well, whenever let's get into the very beginning, and for those people who have not seen the very first episode, we'll go back to the very beginning when we met our spouse or significant other, and they found out that we were collectors. And just to kind of set the stage, I'll start out. I met Melissa, and right away I wanted to be upfront with her. I wanted to tell her, look, there's something about me that's a little bit different than probably most guys that you've ever dated, and just a little bit. And she was like really afraid, I guess to say the least. And I actually I told her I collect toys, and she's like, well, that's no big deal. I mean, guys collect toys, I'm like, no, I collect toys. Well, like a day or so later, she comes over to the apartment, and I had the light switch in my room set to where I could turn it on, and all the lights in my display cases, everything would all light up at the same time. I always kept the door closed because I had a cat, and I didn't want the cat getting in there and peeing on things and stuff like that. So I kept the door closed. Well, I came up there, and I said, I told her, I said, this is going to make or break me. Whether or not you like this or not, this is who I am. This is part of me. It's not me, but it's part of me. So I opened up the door, flipped on the lights, and I just like cringed, and I was waiting for her to go, oh my, and then I did. I heard the words, oh my God. Like, I thought it was over. I thought, this relationship lasts the whole 2 days, But no, she said, this is awesome.
Yes, I did.
now,
presentation.
Yes, now it's annoying to her.
Yes, it is. Very much. Yes.
But we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Jim, you and Amy, you want to take it off from there?
Well, Amy and I have been together pretty much since high school. We started dating back in way back in the year 1999. I wasn't too open back then because high school, that atmosphere tends to be rather judgmental of people that are just perceived to be the slightest bit different or awkward. But after some time, I was able to kind of let her in on my hobby, which back then is nowhere near what it is now. And she was okay with it, and I even to this day I still have the very first Transformer that she ever bought me, which was the Spy Changer Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime. She got it at.
I still have mine. It's over there in that far display case.
Unopened. It's still on the card and everything. Yeah. I have it on the shelf next to like my Masterpiece Grimlock and my autograph blaster and things like that. Because I just it's like one of the prize pieces of my collection. It just will never it will never get sold. Will never get just thrown away or anything like that. Donated. Like a lot of other toys might tend to over years and things. But she's been with me all this time. She's put up with it, and I am forever grateful. We're going.
I like her reaction whenever you said "put up with it."
Yeah. And we're coming up. This upcoming Christmas Eve will be 20 years that we've been together.
Married for 13.
Well,
going on 13.
13, yeah, because we got married in 2006.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've actually gotten into it a little bit. Maybe not.
She likes Revenge of the Fallen.
Like especially in the beginning, I would like to try and mess with the Transformers, try to transform them and everything. And it kind of shocked my family that I'm into things like that now. Not as much as he is, but yeah.
One of us. One of us.
And to answer Rick Alvarez, who posted on our Facebook chat.
Oh, hi, Rick.
Yeah. No, I don't have the first Transformers. My ex-wife bought me. I sold it. With impunity. I even think I told the person I sold it to, feel free to burn this one with fire if you want.
Yeah. That's understandable. I mean, yeah.
But not that she bought me many, so, I mean, she was... Anyway. Lucas, so how did you break the news to your wife? How did she find out that you were a toy nerd?
So with me, I've really been slowly escalating through the years. So, you know, when I met my wife, and I met her a similar time that Jim met his wife as well, and you know, we got married in 2005. So, you know, at the beginning, like, I was collecting some classics and, you know, a few things like that. But then, you know, she's like, hey, like, you know, you have a few of these. Are you sure you need any more? And so I kind of quit at the time. But then when we had our first kid, so that was 7 years ago, or almost 8 now, then I was like, hey, you know, you better watch out if we have boys, because, you know, it's really good. You know, I'm going to buy them like everything, like as far as toys go.
You're going to buy them toys.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's for them. And so I really I remember that right around the time he was born, you know, the Dotson brothers were out, and I went ahead and I was like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and get some of those, and I'll get a couple of the, you know, generations that were out at the time and all that. But it's really been a slow escalation. And then a couple years ago, my wife said, hey, like, you know, we have that extra room downstairs. If you want, you know, you can put a couple bookshelves in there and throw your toys up.
Give them an inch and take a mile.
Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, so then it's kind of really exploded since then. And then, you know, especially with my hobby, and I think, Duran, I'm sure you could probably talk to this as well, that, you know, in addition to collecting the toys, just all the different parts of the fandom. So including, you know, getting on Facebook, getting in the message boards, going to conventions, and then, you know, doing podcasts. So, I mean, you know, obviously, and I'm sure we probably talk about it later, as far as just the time commitment of, you know, doing some of the, you know, podcasts or the conventions and all that type of thing. So, in general, my wife is really supportive. She's not a big Transformers nerd, but she also likes other stuff. So, you know, she's into Harry Potter. She's into, you know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you know, different things like that. So she really likes Star Wars. Like, she doesn't collect it, but she loves all the movies and everything like that. So, yeah, so she totally gets it, as far as, you know, because she's had her things that she's nerded out about as well. But yeah, like, I think for her, it's really, you know, as long as I don't have too many boxes that are showing up on the front step, that's, you know, that she's okay. Or at least if I have more boxes going out the door than coming in the door, then, you know, she's okay.
More boxes going out than coming in. I don't think that happens. Something tells me that don't happen. Anna, now we get to you. How did you break it to your husband?
Well, it was very early because he was coming to my house to hang out more often because I had a house at the time and he was still at home. So I met him like about 7 years ago now. So that's how long we've known each other. And I actually had my toys out in my house on display, but truth be told, I actually didn't have many Transformers on display then. Back then, I mainly collected Asian ball jointed dolls, and they're much more expensive than Transformers.
Yeah, they are.
And in my husband's opinion, much creepier than Transformers. So perhaps he's enjoyed the change. But at the time, I had them in my living room set up, and they're like, they kind of look like porcelain dolls, but they're more posable, and they have like very realistic humanoid eyes. So they're nice and creepy for a living room decoration. So I had them set up in my living room, and then I had at the time, this was 2012, very small collection of Masterpiece Transformers in my bedroom, which I think was better for having compared to the dolls. So over time, I've gotten more back into collecting Transformers than collecting the dolls. I really don't do that anymore. And it has really, like Lucas said, it's really grown since Chris and I have been together. But for our first Valentine's Day together, he actually got me, so at the time I was just collecting Masterpiece, right? Like I wasn't collecting any retail figures at all, but he got me a cheesy Optimus Prime Valentine's Day card, which was definitely intended to be given to a 6-year-old boy. And he also got me a Transformers Prime Rumble, which is really cool. I liked it because he knew that I liked that character in G1 at least, so had the same name, so that would work. And yeah, it was really cool. He's been giving me Transformers themed gifts ever since then. He's a little more in line with like the things I actually collect now than back in the day, and I haven't gotten any more Optimus Prime Valentine's Day cards. But he's generally supportive of the hobby, like as far as me having a hobby and having a collection, and doesn't think it's out of hand yet.
And doesn't put you out of house and home,
Right, not yet. And the only thing he could find to complain about when I talked to him about it earlier was that sometimes it results in a lot of clutter. So he's happy as long as everything's on the shelf, displayed and looking nice. But then when I have things everywhere while I'm working on selling them or redisplaying them, or perhaps I just brought a couple to the living room to play with, left them in there like the aforementioned 6-year-old boy, then he gets a little frustrated. But most of the time, it's a pretty positive thing.
Yes. I mean, well, like I said, we're broadcasting both live on YouTube and Facebook Live. So if you're watching this live right now, which if you're just now seeing this like on any of the Facebook shares and everything that's out there right now, feel free to comment and let us know what your thoughts are. Because we're here to talk about this. This is something that every collector deals with, whether you're married, single. I tried to get one of our single cast members on, but they didn't want to be like the lone single person. I'm like, why? It's normal. But for those of the collectors who do have someone, whether it be a girlfriend, boyfriend, a husband, wife, it doesn't matter. The condition is the same, I guess, is what I'm trying to get it out there. And through this episode, I'm hoping that we can get people to realize, if you've ever had any misgivings about being a collector, or you just really never talked to your spouse about it, or even really consciously thought about some of these things. And I'll be honest, up until several years ago, I never really consciously thought about how it affected not just myself, but the people around me, especially the people that I love. And if it affects them, how does it affect them? How do they deal with it? So through this episode, we hope that we can help you cope with that and understand both sides of the coin, as it were. So I'm going to call out the white elephant in the room right now, and go to both Amy and Melissa right off the bat. What do you hate about us being a Transformers collector? Amy, I'll let you go first.
Thanks.
Because I'm afraid what she's going to say.
There's really not a whole lot, in my opinion, that would be negative. The only thing is when a new one comes out, or there's one that's really expensive, and he just has to get it.
Yep.
We kind of have to talk about priority.
I'm still getting Predaking.
We just kind of have to talk about priority of Transformer or a particular bill. But
Lights are still on, food's still on the table. Just saying.
But I think that would be the main negative. And then you were talking about being cluttered. That he's always having things out like in the living room and things like that. And
I put them away while I'm done with them. Like a good little.
No, you don't. Not always. He has some in the bedroom. He actually wanted to have a whole room for them.
I used to.
Yeah, he used to. Then when we moved, he's like, he still wanted a whole room for him, and I'm like, no, we can figure out other ways of having them out instead of the entire room. But yeah.
So, Melissa, my love, please be gentle. What do you hate about me being a Transformers collector?
That you have to have. We always have a box coming in several times in the week. That gets very aggravating sometimes.
Several times in a week?
Dependent. We have.
When was the last box that I received?
Shut.
I got one like a week ago.
Anyway. I do hate the clutter. What you all don't see, there's boxes. There's boxes right over there. It's hidden.
The empty boxes. I keep all my third party and Japanese boxes.
The boxes.
But I throw the retail one from the U.S. I just throw those away.
And I have to ask to throw them away because I don't know which is what and what. But to each his own. But I would have to say the clutter because again, not everybody can see, but there's also a bed that because this is also part my son's room because he's part-time home because of college. So there's a TV and a bed like right off screen. So this room is very cluttered and small, and we keep Transformers in this room. The rest of the house, there's nothing. I don't
display them anywhere else.
I don't allow it.
Well, even when I was in my apartment,
I
didn't display my toys outside of the collection room.
And usually, like if we watch a movie or something, he'll grab one and transform it while we're watching a movie. I'm like, well,
especially if I've seen the movie before. I mean,
but
Melissa, just be on the lookout throughout your house for any microscopes or cameras or maybe micro cassette recorders. Any household appliances you don't remember having.
When he sets up to take his pictures, he does it in another room because again, there's not enough room in this room. So I will allow that. He does it in the kitchen for the moment, but because our house is kind of small for us.
I was only warning you because they tend to be in disguise. Kind of the thing.
Jim. Anyway, but overall, I don't have an issue with this. I will say when it comes to the podcast, and I will be nice, there is times that I wish that he didn't do this every Saturday night. Because the man behind all this, it affects me and it affects our family. Sometimes it's hard, and I will say that basically Saturday nights are non-existent to us as a couple because He literally gets home now from work. We eat dinner. He comes in here. And that's it. And
I can't deny that. I mean, that's true.
and there's sometimes when he finally comes out of this room, I'm already asleep, depending on my work schedule. But I have to say, there is some Saturdays I'm like, it bugs the heck out of me. Because I'm like, everybody else has a life, but I feel like we don't. So, and that's my nice version of that. But I can't, again, we've been together 4 years. I knew this going in. A podcast is nothing new. It's just every now and again, as a couple that we're still new, I would like to have a date every now and again without, having to do it when the kids are.
Responsibilities, honey.
I know. But it's just, sometimes it's hard. It's hard for more me than probably anybody else because I'm the woman behind the man, so to speak, in this. But
that's one of the things too that it's things that we do as a collector, and it goes beyond just collecting the toys. There's some of us out there that do other things that are adjacent to collecting the toys. I know, Lucas, you've been a dealer at conventions.
Yep.
I help too. Capture Prey staff. I do so much that is related to my hobby that isn't directly to my hobby. This podcast being like the number one thing. But like, as she said, it's something that I've done for, as you can see up there in the upper right-hand corner, since 2010. I've been doing this a while. And it's not something that I'm just going to give up because, number one, I enjoy doing it. Number two, I don't get to because of my busy work week and how much time I put into actually helping keep the lights on and everything. I don't get to spend much time with my friends, and I don't get to go out as often as I used to. So, my Saturday nights, the hour and a half, 2 hours that I spend in here with you guys and the viewers too, because interacting with the viewers is also interacting with fellow fans. And I enjoy doing that. That's something that I need as a collector as well. I want to be able to hang out with people that know what I'm talking about. They don't just blankly stare at me whenever I mention a Transformer's name. Okay, but there's also that, and then also have my photography, the Yellow Wolf Studios. I do that. That's something I did a lot more prolifically up until a couple years ago. As she said, we don't have a whole lot of room in this house, so I don't do it as often as I used to. But it's something that I enjoy. To me, it's very. I find it very calming, and it's if I want some quiet time outside of me cussing because I can't remember how to transform something. And usually I do it whenever she's at work and there's nothing else going on. What? Oh, I thought I would received a message or something. What?
No, go on.
Pinterest. Oh. What?
Go
You're
on.
looking at me like I've been watching porn and you just saw a notification or something. But, we got to understand that, those are examples of things that we do in addition to being collectors that also impact the ones that we love. Amy, is there something that Jim does, not just as a toy collector, but is related to the hobby that you find interfering with it? Like being on the podcast? Does that interfere with you at all?
No, only because we have a lot of opportunity to see each other throughout the week. That when it comes to Saturday nights, I'm okay with him doing the podcast. Now, if we didn't get to see each other throughout the week, then I'd probably be the same way. but I know that, this is, there have been times occasionally when, where he would have to maybe not be on the podcast due to plans that we may have already had or something like that. But there's also been last minute changes where he had to go on when we weren't expecting it. So, I think he tries to accommodate when necessary, but for the most part, it's not an issue. Sorry, the long answer short, but yeah.
And that's part of our problem. We don't see, even though we live together now a year and a half, we still don't see each other because of our work schedules. Mm-hmm. And it sucks. That's why when it comes Saturday night, we both literally have been home right at probably 2 hours now. And we ate dinner. I spent some time in the living room talking to my daughter because she was having some issues today.
I was there too.
I know. And then we had to come in here. So it's hard. It's sometimes it gets very frustrating, and we have some minor disagreements, not really big, but he knows my true feelings on this. That every now and again I would like to say, you know what, let's just go to the movies, let's go to dinner, or you know what, let's just Netflix, let's just do something, play a game, I don't know, but I just know Saturday nights now, and due because of his work schedule, we don't see
because
each other.
Now my new work schedule, I primarily work the weekends, and then I'm off in the middle of the week. The middle of the week is my weekend, and what she means is like I work on the weekends now, and I'm off in the middle of the week. She's off on the weekends now, and for the most part, and works during the week. So we only see each other in passing, like, a couple hours a day. But that just goes to, we find ways to still stay attached, stay together. I message her every chance I get and let her know how I feel. And it's those little things that I think helps us grow as a couple. This being a collector is a strain on it. I do see that, and I do understand that, and I do go to great lengths as much as I can to try to alleviate some of that strain. I don't try to throw it in her face as much as I could, and if we do something special, if I've got like a special guest coming on the show, I might bounce some ideas off of her. But it's a whole lot of give and take, and as it is with any relationship. But I want to go to Lucas and Anna now, and I'll go with Anna first. You say, what would you say is the biggest strain on your relationship in relation to being a collector? Is there anything that you do that is related to the hobby that you find is a strain to it?
I'm trying to think. Honestly, not really on his side. Like, it's not really a strain for him. So, for the most part, he actually likes that I have... This is the only hobby we don't share. Every other hobby I have, he also enjoys. And, I like everything he likes except for sports. So, we pretty much have, great intersection. We're both gamers. We both like role-playing games and board games and all that sorts of stuff. We both like the same kind of shows and whatnot. So we have a lot of overlap in those areas. There are some shows I have to watch on my own because he doesn't like sappy stuff, but, whatever.
Crime drama.
However...
she loves the crime dramas. I can't stand them.
He loves crime dramas. I find them rather boring. Sometimes. Some of them I like, to an extent, but he just can always watch them and I can't. But I'm really into anime and he's less into it than I am. So, anyway, I would say, honestly, the biggest problems are me feeling guilty because of the time, you know, and the money that I spend on the toys, because he's primarily a video game player, meaning that, you know, big purchase every once in a while, you know, like upgrading his PlayStation recently, big purchase. Me consistently having new toys I want to buy is a bunch of small purchases that are always kind of, you know, happening over time that I feel guilty about. He never really like complains about it. He never complains about the amount of time I spend on the whatever this is called, podcast, or going to conventions and whatnot. I do, but I do feel guilty for it, just because like this is Saturday night, like you all said, and I feel like I should leave it open just in case we want to do anything. And Tuesday nights when we do our microcast, I have only been home he's only been home from work for about 30 minutes when I get started. I've only been home from work like 45 minutes. So usually we're barely able to fit in dinner and things like that. So I would say, honestly, it's, unless there's any strain he hasn't told me, it's mostly just that I kind of feel guilty about going overboard.
I think you bring up the key word there. A lot of fans and collectors that have a significant other is guilt. You know, it's like, as Jim said earlier, you know, I always try to make sure that we have our bases covered as best as possible. You know, make sure, you know, we have the lights and all the necessities taken care of. But you buy a toy, and even if it's an expensive one, you know, you feel that tinge of guilt. You know, am I robbing the family of something other? I do feel that every single time. But at the same time, I also see it as something that, you know, as much as I put out there for everyone else, you know, I do this podcast not just because I enjoy it, but it's also a labor of love, because it's a fan service. Let's put it simply. This is a fan service that we're doing right here. And I feel like I'm giving through the podcast. And then I do other things for the family that I feel like I'm giving. You know, it's whenever I buy a toy, it's that one little thing I do just for me. I don't, and we've talked about this on other shows. In that, who do you buy your collection for? Do you buy it to buy figures for your collection to impress other people? Do you buy them because you like them, or do you buy them because it's something that that you truly want? And if I buy a toy, it's something that I want, and I buy it for me, and I don't buy it to impress other people. I really, as much as I would love to show off my collection, and if somebody was to come by and see the collection, I would enjoy that. But I really don't care, if that makes any sense, what other people think of my collection, because I know there's people out there that has far more superior collections than I. You know, I mean, their collections got rarer stuff, displayed more nicely, lit better. You know, and then there's people that have less than I do and are perfectly happy having 15 action figures in one case. You know, on a dusty shelf. You know, that makes them happy. This makes me happy. You know, there are times that we as individuals want to have our alone time. And this is my room where I like to come in and have my alone time. I need it. Because, you know, dealing with other people, especially at work, you have the stresses at work, or if you have, you know, I hate to say it, but if we've had an argument or something other, I want to get away. So I don't say something to her that would be hurtful, or vice versa. I want to remove myself from that situation. I'll come in here and I'll mess with my toys for a while. Cool off. You know, think about something else. And as I've said before, one of the reasons I collect toys is it takes me back to a simpler time whenever I didn't have the worries and everything. My parents bought me my toys, and it was I didn't have worries of bills and doctor visits and work and all these stresses. It reminds me of that time.
So what you're saying is it's almost a form of like therapy or self-care.
It's stress relief.
Yeah, right.
But like going back to what you said there, guilt is always a part of being a collector. I don't. If there's a collector out there that says there's no guilt tied to his collection, I would dare say that they're a liar. I mean, there's always that tinge of guilt, always. And I felt that ever since the beginning as a collector. Lucas, what are your thoughts along these lines?
So, I think the financial aspect is definitely, I think the one thing that, that I feel guilty about. I think that if anything that my wife probably doesn't like is probably that as well. But at the same time, she trusts me. She knows that, that I try to stick to somewhat of a budget, that if I'm spending too much, that, that I'm selling. So a lot of it is, guilt, myself or whatever to, oh crud, I bought a couple figures, now I need to sell something or whatnot. So, I think that, kind of also along the lines of, what you're talking before about the time commitment, I think that really, I think when you're doing this hobby, you can really see the type of person that your significant other is how they accept you with the hobby. So if they think that your hobby is stupid, or if they're putting you down for it or whatever, is that really the person that you want to be with and that you want to spend the rest of your life with?
I've been there. Not with her, but I've been there. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's obviously there's limits to everything, but I think that if that person's not supportive with what you love to do, I mean, to me, like I'm lucky because my wife is a saint, and that she's watching the kids, tonight. She's gonna probably put them to bed and all that type of thing. So I'm very thankful that she does that. Again, like we were saying with conventions, so I help out with TF Expo, and I've also been a dealer there. And so because of that, she's also helped volunteer at TF Expo, or she's been wrangling our kids, that type of thing. And so, that's the thing is I'm very thankful that, she lets you do that, or that when, I'm going to, hey, honey, I want to go spend a weekend in Chicago for TFCon with my buddies. She's like, okay, cool. Sounds great. That she's supportive of all that. But I think at the same time that I think it's good to have someone who will talk with you and allow you to put limits on yourself for your collection, because, I've met people, and I'm sure, John, you've probably met people too, to where, they have no limit. They're literally spending every last dollar on their collection. Some
people are like that.
Yeah. And yeah, they're literally like, oh, I'm not going to eat for the week because, I'm going to eat ramen because, that
it's those people that I wonder if they feel the guilt. It's there, but I wonder if they actually acknowledge that it's there.
Transformer, ramen.
But see, the thing is that I don't know. I feel like with the fact that that I have a family and a wife and all that I'm more likely to feel guilt, because it's like, that for them, if it was just me, I'd be like, well, whatever. It's like, again, I've got $1 in my bank account, so I'm good. Whereas I have to think about others and not just myself with that. But I do think that it's good that it both puts limits on yourself, and so that you have somebody else that says, hey, like, are you really sure that you should get that Power of the Primes Predaking, or why don't you wait till it goes on sale?
if it's a huge purchase, like more than $150 or something other, I'll even ask her about it? Do I not? So I mean, it's not something that I just say, well, I'm just going to spend $300 today on this toy or this group of toys. I'll talk to her even before I even moved in, and we all became one household. Even whenever I was staying at my apartment, I saw us as together. I'm like, hey, would you be cool if I did this? And I think that's something that is part of being responsible as a collector, and that's a whole other topic in and of itself. But before we move on to the next area I want to talk about, Lucas, I want to ask you, how does your wife think about the things that you do surrounding the hobby?
So first off, I just want to stop real quick and interrupt that apparently Masterpiece Black Arachnia has been revealed at Wonderfest.
Really?
So yeah, if you didn't
the
see
third-party add-on kits,
if you didn't see in the comments,
yeah, I was wondering what that was talking about.
I still want to see the pictures if they're already It's really hard to hold back.
there are, yeah. So I was looking at that here while you were talking. So Duran, sorry. What were you asking about the time commitment?
Well, I mean, not just the time commitment, but the things that surround the hobby, like the podcast or being a dealer. How does your wife feel about how that impacts?
Go on.
Well, you don't even know what I'm looking for. It's like, how can you look for it? You don't even know what to look for. How would she feel about that?
I mean, she's been supportive of it again, and so I mean, she, if there's something that I ask her to do that she's helped out with, again, she's helped run my table, at TF Expo, and she's so. In general, you're not going to see her like she's not, really, again, doesn't have the interest in Transformers directly. But she does enjoy meeting the other actors. She does, she's just supportive of me in the background, I should say. That most of the time she typically is not going to TFCon. She actually is going to go with me this year. We're going to be going to the one in Burbank. But I convinced her to go because Disney's there as well. But, typically she's not going to TFCon with me as well. And that she will do TF Expo as well. But, she doesn't want to spend like all day at, the convention herself. Like she wants to do other things. Not just do that.
Go ahead, speak up.
My very first convention was the last BotCon, when it was basically in our backyard, and that was the year I met Jim in person.
He stayed at my place.
But I was amazed, but I'm like, but also this is a lot of work. Because I do help out with Capture Prey as well. And good old Orson, love him to death. But I've been to, what was it, 2 years ago? We went to Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
the last one, yeah, the one before this one in Chicago.
So, and my daughter's come with me. My daughter's 14 now, but she actually has some Transformers herself. So it's been enlightening. I wish we could go to more, but due to vacations, time, work, money, this, that, and the other, and being too far away, I can't see us going to California. That ain't happening. But
well, I don't have any vacation time the rest of this year, so that ain't happening. No.
It's just, I wish that we could do more conventions. I wish we can go to TF Expo. He's been several. I've not been to one, but I enjoy them. It is a lot of work. And by the time we get home, I'm like, I'm done. This is it. I'm exhausted. This is crazy. To go all day, nonstop, hardly no sleep.
No food.
No food. it takes a lot of time and energy to do conventions, and yeah, I wish I did more, but then again, I'm glad that we don't.
But how did you feel about meeting other fans like me? Did you realize? Did it help you realize that I'm kind of normal, or did it? How did it frame you? And how did it put you in a frame of mind in relation to me meeting other fans like Jim?
Very many people like me.
Well, it's nice to see people who, even though I see you all on a camera, it's nice to see everybody in person, and I don't get that chance. I've met a lot of people, a lot of friends in person, but let's just say that there is a lot of weird, crazy people out there that I'm like, what? You know, from young to old. But there is also obviously normal people in front of us.
And she's pointing at us like we're normal.
Shut up.
normal. Air quotes. Normal.
But we've all seen it. Those weird
the people that go way overboard. And yeah,
but
we know those people.
But anyway, if I keep talking, I'll go off on subject.
Well, this is a podcast.
Well,
it may help. It may help. So this is your chance to voice.
No. Nope. Nope.
I definitely have to agree with her, because in the beginning, like even with my family, we didn't realize just how popular they were. And then we saw a video on one of those, was it BotCon? Or was it one of the other?
It was probably the Rhino G1 box sets. They had the footage of I think like BotCon 02 or something on it.
Yeah, and there's so many people, and I'm thinking, really? And that kind of helped me to, better understand him, James, He says Jim, I call him James.
Mud.
But yeah, so I definitely think seeing how many people are into it has really helped me to, just understand him, and I understand now why he enjoys it, why he collects. So.
Yeah, well, my son, who is now 20, is one of those people. He looks and he doesn't understand. He.
Yet the closet there is like full of like 40 boxes of Nikes that he wore like one time each.
He's a collector too.
Yes, but he doesn't understand. He's my one kid who doesn't understand, who don't get it. But he also knows this is part of Duran. This is who we are. Yeah, I have my little tiny shelf over there, but it, as I'm sure some of y'all have seen online, my little shelf is of certain things. I don't go and my daughter, I do collect some of the Jazzes because her name is Jasmine. So, and it turns into a Porsche, which is my dream car. So it's a twofer. So Jazz is important in this household, along with Weird Wolves, obviously.
What?
So, my daughter, she enjoys it to a point, but then she's like, I could care less. But yeah. Anyway.
What about bots?
So, well, I have a little tiny shelf of a little bit.
Bots.
Of a little bit.
I have not taken that one yet.
She wants more bots.
I do. I will admit to that.
Because
I can transform those
nothing
easy.
wrong with that.
They're super cute.
And they're easy to transform for me. Because if I get a new one that's more complicated, I'm like, here. I don't even attempt to try it. I'm like, here, you do it.
She couldn't even. She had to get her own Titan Returns Weird Wolf, and I had to transform it for her. She got about halfway through it, and she slung it over to me and said, "Here, finish this for me." But Annie, you had your finger up though.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I've been like half raising
Sorry.
my hand. Wondering if that would be weird, but that's okay.
You're a teacher. That happens.
On a couple of these sites, like the idea of using downward social comparisons for my collection, like he does it himself. He'll go online and see other people's collections and just how massive they are and how boring they are, according to him, compared to mine, because I actually keep room on my shelves and pose them and whatnot. And he considers that a much better way to display than the standing straight arms, straight legged, back to back, side to side, that, you know, all shoved in a case. So it's very useful for me that he does that, and that every once in a while he'll go look at like the Transformers Reddit or something and see the people who have 8 times as many figures. He recently discovered the concept of troop building with people who have their like troop building sets, and he was like, "Would you ever do this? This is so stupid."
He should see Rick's collection of sweeps.
Yeah, see, he would judge that hard, and it helps me. That benefits me when he judges the other collectors worse. So it's like mine's no big deal.
Well, the thing is that I think we all have our vices. We all have something that we enjoy. You know, it's like I know her. She is a reader. She I call them the trash novels. You know, she loves. I mean, she will go through. You've been reading a book a day, an entire book a day. I mean, her Kindle. I don't see how it stays charged. But you know that's something that she enjoys. I don't sit here. I don't degrade her for it. There's and there are times that I would love if she's a little more interactive with me. You know, I talk to her. Oh, read this part. His hand slid up her thigh. I'm like, I could just do this to you later. You know, but anyway, you know, that's something that she loves. I don't knock her for it. You know, if she were a collector, you know, more hardcore than, you know, or even as much as I am on something, as long as our quality of life was not impacted, I guess is what I'm trying to say, I would be fine with it. And like I said, I don't try to. I know that my collectorness overflows from time to time, and I may gush about something to her, but I don't actively throw it in her face. I don't go out of my way to annoy her with it. If I do, it's not something that I do intentionally. You know, it's something that I don't know. It's something that I try to enjoy on my own, and I don't try to drag her into it. I don't expect her to enjoy it with me. You know, I'd like it if she thought something looked cool. And there's and truth be told, whenever we first got together, there were several toys that she told me she thought looked cool. Now I can be like, man, this looks cool. She'll look at it and go, eh. I look at that, and I'm like, but this is cool. Yeah, that's the most I'll get sometimes, but I'll take it. It's you know, if she's genuinely interested in something, then she'll let me know. I don't force her to say, oh, well, you know, come on, you know this is cool. I don't shove it down her throat. Jim.
Yes.
Do you do that with Amy? Be honest.
To a point.
We one of the things when you were talking about that, irritates the crap out of me is anytime we're in a store, no matter what store it is, if there's a toy section, he will be there at some point. And it's like, you know, I went in there to find something specific, and he just has to be there. And so I'm just like, and then he wants me to come over there, and I'm like, okay, I don't really care about this. I mean, not what he's looking at. I care about Transformers, but, you know, I'm like, I want to go do this, or, you know, but yeah.
Well, to be fair, you like gravitate right toward the baby section.
Nevertheless. I do.
I guess we each have our kryptonite.
So I will say that I think that probably annoys my wife as well. Because when we go to the store, if I'm going with my kids, we're all heading to the toy section. And so then the kids want to get a toy, yada, yada. And so then we have to say no and all that type of thing. So, or if I do find something I want, it's hard for me to be like, all right, well, I'm going to get this, Marvel Legend or Transformers figure, but I'm not going to buy you anything. So then we have to buy the kids something and all that type of thing. So that is probably another annoyance my wife has, I'm sure.
Well, it's probably been that way ever since we were all kids. Because like some of my earliest memories, we would go to a grocery store, not even a department store, just go to the grocery store. I take off, run away from the cart, go right to the breakfast cereal aisle, because the breakfast cereal aisle is where the toys always were.
I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't find that as unusual, though. Wanting to go to the toy section, because it's something that we want to do. I mean, if we went into a store and she had to go right straight to the clothes section every single time, which she does, I don't have a problem with it. You go your way, I'll go mine. As long as we agree to meet in the middle, I don't think that's abnormal. I really don't. Even if we go to the grocery store, even though our local store kind of has a sucky toy section, they used to have a decent one. I don't know why they cut it down to like a quarter of an aisle. But I'll even go to the toy section on there. I've been hoping to find BotBots there, but yeah, I guess it's part of the thrill of the hunt. See what you can find, and it's part of the fun for me as a collector. But again, if she wants to come along, great. But and I can always use it as a, hey, if you're looking for me, you know where I'll be. One of two places: electronics or toys. So,
and conveniently, Target puts those right next
to each other. Yeah. Well, some Walmarts do too, but
yeah.
So, as a spouse or a loved one, what's important that you get out of the relationship, or what's the most important thing in maintaining a relationship as a collector to each one of you? What do you do to make your significant other, to remind them that, hey, this is just something that I enjoy, but this isn't, this does not replace you? Because I know, does that make sense to you? I mean, do you think that some collectors, of sorts, replace their significant other with the toys? Like, put them first in that matter?
To an extent, I would definitely say yes. Some people do. And I'll say, yeah, I make an effort to make sure that the toys, that the hobby comes second. Honestly, I'm sorry to say this in front of you all who do this show with me, but if Chris really needed something on the night or day of this podcast, I would cancel for it. I would not put this above my relationship with him or my job. I think that is pretty much what I do in order to make sure that it, never really is a problem, is to kind of just say that our relationship comes first, and that I only do this when we're not otherwise busy, and I only honestly go into my toy room when he's already on his computer playing a video game that's not multiplayer. So then I go up here and I mess around with toys and feel somewhat less productive than I would if I also played a video game. But I will say that one thing that really helps for me and him is he's helped me with selling the figures I don't want. So he's helped me sell them on eBay, and he always helps me. So, we constantly have things listed on eBay to sell, to get rid of, because, I'm a toy collector / hoarder, and he has to constantly moderate me. But that really helps just kind of put into mind that most of this collection is actually something that if something did happen, God forbid I lost my job or one of us get terribly injured, most of it has retained its value relatively well. And if something bad were to happen, we could and can sell it all. And I'm not attached enough that I would ever put it before, our well-being. If
it's kind of an investment. It's kind of an investment that you can enjoy now and then. If need be, you can. If you need to survive, they can go.
If that bookshelf over there had to be a house payment, it would have to be a house payment. I mean, that's just something that I'm okay with, and he's okay with. So it's like, if you think about it, with him being a gamer, games depreciate really, really fast. Like 6 months after you buy a video game, they're worth very little. 6 months after you buy them,
really fast.
Well, that's even worse. But these figures, most of them that I've held on to for 10 plus years, they're not appreciating like they used to, like they're not becoming super valuable, but they're also retaining most of their value. 75% of value for resale is kind of pretty normal most of the time, which is, decent enough
recoup enough out of it to make it worthwhile.
More than we can of the video games or the food we ate or our dogs, So yeah, they're more of an investment than our other hobbies. So I think that does help because he's very aware of it since he's helped me with it.
I will say that Transformers are definitely not an investment, but I do think that I definitely agree that they retain a lot more value than really any other toys. Like if you're a huge Marvel Legends collector, like most of them just, you can't get rid of them. Like Star Wars is the same thing where there's very few things that retain value and most anything on the shelves right now don't. Whereas Transformers is unique in the fact that a lot of times you can flip it for what you paid for it. And in some cases, fans' toys or whatever, they do appreciate value.
So how did you feel about what Anna said about?
Well, considering that we just had somewhat of the same discussion the other day, he has something to show for his money, I guess you can say. You walk in here and you're like, oh, okay, this is where all his money goes. Where me, I have a kid in college.
That's where all your money goes.
And that's where a good chunk of my money goes. And I also have one still at home. But at the end of the day, I'm like,
you have a child's education to show for it.
And then,
that's I think that's important too. It's not like you. I think you're trying to put it in the light that you don't have anything physical to show for it, but in a sense that you do. And I think you need to realize that. Now that was part of our discussion that we had the other day. As many of you are aware, I lost my father a couple months ago, and we were talking about lessons that we learned from our parents one way or another. And one of the things that my dad told me, he never really approved of me being a Transformer collector, a toy collector. A matter of fact, at first he downright thought it was deplorable. But whenever I got into a big money crunch, and I actually had a car accident about 12 years ago, I needed to get another car, and I didn't have enough money in the bank to just go buy another car. So I sold off half of my collection, and I went to an auto auction and bought a car. And my dad didn't know I did that. And then whenever I showed up at the house with the car, he's like, "This is not a bad car." Now my next question is, where'd you get the money to buy this? And I said, I sold toys. And he goes, you what? And I said, I sold toys. And he goes, they're worth that much? And I said, yeah. I said, they're something that I enjoy, but they're also worth something. And this sitting right here with 4 rubber tires is proof of that. And I've done that twice in my lifetime. If when it come down to brass tacks, when I needed something that expensive, it's either the toys or something that helps me get to work and earn a paycheck. And I made that choice. But my dad told me, he said, well, son, if it makes you happy, as long as, he said, don't spend money unless you have something to show for it. There's people that goes out there and spends hundreds of dollars a week on cigarettes. And what do they do with that money? They literally set it on fire and burn it. And he said, at the end of the week, what do they have to show for all that money that they earned and spent? Nothing. They have ashes. He says, as long as you've got something to show for it that's tangible, he says, you've done something with your money. And that was a lesson that my dad taught me. And in a way, I look at my shelves and I feel a sense of pride in that. It's not like I'm bankroll here, but I have something to show for it if it came down to it. If I needed the money, it's there. But it just take time to get it. That's the subject in and of itself too. But it's a discussion that she and I have had as from a collector to a person who lives with a collector. I'm happy that she sees that there's value in this. This is not just something that I waste my time on and waste my money on. I know she sees the value in it, and I think that's important to me as a collector. How do you guys feel, Amy, James?
Yeah, I was going to say that is one thing that is positive is that any time in the past that we've had any financial crises or anything like that come up, he won't hesitate to do what needs to be done to get that money. And more times than not, he's sold a lot of his figures to be able to pay whatever it is that we need to pay, whether it's a bill in the past or what's it called? Not down payment, but where you have to pay before you get like a procedure done or something like that.
Deposit.
But yeah, so I mean, he's not one to hesitate to do that if it needs to be done. So I mean, in that way, he does put us first. He always does, but I mean, he puts me first by doing that. Anything else that you could think of that you do?
That really basically summed it up.
Yeah, I mean,
it's something. Pardon me. It's something that has a monetary value, sure, and also a sentimental value, but at the same time, what are either of those when ourselves or our families aren't the priority? It's like monetary value, but to who?
I think we've even
sentimental
mentioned,
value.
I think we've even mentioned it here on the show before, and it goes back to what I alluded to earlier. Do you collect for value? It's and I think Brett even stated it on this show, a couple years ago. If you collect toys as a financial investment, you're a fool. Simply because you don't know what's going to appreciate in value and what's going to depreciate in value. And for the most part, everything depreciates. And some things will depreciate before they appreciate. Several years after G1 ended, you could get G1 toys really, really cheap. And then now look at them.
Yard sales, Goodwill, they were everywhere.
Yeah. So it's kind of foolish to, if you're buying a toy and go, well, I'm going to buy this toy and it's going to be worth something, 5, 10, 15 years down the road. That's not a good mindset. You buy something because you like it and you want to enjoy it. but in the end, it does have intrinsic value. I think that's the key thing we're trying to get at here. We're not sitting here saying that, rely on your toys as a backup bank investment. That's not at all what we're saying. It's just that whenever it comes down to brass tacks, the toys have intrinsic value and they can help in a financial hardship. But don't rely on it.
I have to say that's one thing I worry about for my husband, is that if the market ever falls out of the Transformers area, like how he will feel about that, because I won't care, because all their value to me is the fact that, I have never had to sell out. Like, I've never gotten to the point where I needed to sell my figures, and, I think I'm a decent enough professor that I probably won't end up there, most likely. But for me, that's kind of secondary, right? Like, it's like, honestly, their value to me is mostly that I can sell the ones that I've gotten tired of to get new ones type of idea. But I do worry that for him, if it ever comes to be the idea that, these deluxes that you can usually rehome for at least $10 a piece go down to being worth like $1 a piece at yard sales again. A terrifying statement, I know.
Yeah.
If that were to happen, though, I don't know how he would feel about the collection then. Like, suddenly it went from, I don't want to say numbers, dollars of toys on all these shelves that he can say, well, at least we could sell these if we had to, oh, she puts junk on the shelves.
Lucas, what's your thoughts along these lines?
Yeah, I mean, I think as I alluded to before that, I started getting into Star Wars, and so I bought some of the newer stuff, and I can't give that stuff away. I mean, I got these figures that from episode 1 or 2 or whatever, that it's like I throw that out at TF Expo and say, make me an offer, and so I do worry about that sometimes, that, again, it's like, there's a fair amount of money wrapped up in, all the stuff behind me. And so it's, yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is not, never putting yourself in a situation where you're causing yourself financial hardship, that you're just, this is,
yourself and your family. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You got to put food on the table first. You got to, get savings first, all that type of thing. This is kind of a nice to have, but, again, if we, if I didn't, if I couldn't have it, I'd be okay with that, because family and all, I got other priorities that come first. And so, and I think that's one of the things that, my wife is okay with the hobby and with me collecting, because she knows that. But she knows I'm not going out there and spending every last dollar that we have, or maxing out credit cards in order to get the next figure. So, but it's about moderation.
Absolutely. Well, we're actually nearing the end of the podcast here, but I do want to end it on a high note. You're like, I do want to end it on a high note and go around, and I'll go to Lucas and Anna first, since their spouses aren't here. But if you could put a pinpoint on the thing that they enjoy the most out of you being a collector, what do you think they find the most awesome part of you being a collector is? Anna, what do you think?
I'll share what he said when I asked that question. And what he said when I asked that question is that he enjoys that it gets me out of his hair when I go to mess with my toys. That was his reply to that question.
You're not annoying, are you, Anna?
You could. There's multiple accounts for the answer to that question. However, I would say that the value I think he really gets out of it is that he's not a collector. I shouldn't say that he isn't not a collector. There's a lot of video game collector's editions downstairs. memorabilia from video games. 2 years ago at TFYLP, I found one of an old collector's edition of a Halo game that he really likes. And, I knew to get that for him because I knew that he really liked that game and I knew that he would like that display. And he doesn't like figures, like posable action figures. He likes statues and books and things you can display that you don't have to mess with, basically. He's not really into the action figure side. But I'd say, I will never complain about him wanting to get a collector's edition of some video game, even knowing that most collector's editions do end up at TFYLP, or somewhere else being sold randomly.
But because it means something to him.
Right. I have no problem with any collectibles, memorabilia, things he wants to get. I tracked down a really expensive anime figure once that he really liked, that was hard to find at that point, but I'm relatively good at finding these things given my obsession with rare toys. So yeah, I would say that that's really what he gets out of it, and that's just the lucky thing about us both being nerds. Honestly, is that his.
Your audio.
Did I robot?
Yeah, you're robot moding again.
It's part of the hobby. Sometimes you pick up robot characteristics. I have always liked Soundwave. Am I still doing it?
No, you're fine.
No. Okay, cool, because I can't hear it myself. Anyway, like I was saying, I think that, yeah, that would pretty much be the best thing, is that any collectibles, any kind of, the purchase of a PlayStation Pro, for instance, was no big deal to me, because I know that I buy a lot of toys, and I might upgrade my Optimus Prime soon for no good reason other than the new one seems slightly better, maybe kinda. Just kind of like upgrading a PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that's probably it, is that I have that collector's mentality that's not going to be judgmental.
Awesome. Lucas, what about you?
I think for me that it makes me happy. I think that that's the big thing for her, that, I'm happy doing this. I mean, I have a stressful job. There's times where, the kids drive you nuts, all that type of thing. And so just having an outlet of something that, that I can enjoy and that makes me happy. And then the other thing too is I can involve my kids like Transformers too. We can, the main line, we can play together and all that. So, it's not just it's not just for me. It's for, my kids can enjoy it as well. And it can be, something, with the family. But that's the main thing is that, it makes me happy. It gives me an outlet for, and a hobby. So I'm not bugging her all the time.
It keeps you happy. I think that's a number one thing we can take away from this, is that we could be down and out and there's a whole lot worse things out there we could be doing that could hurt the family even more than being a toy collector. Let's be honest. I don't go out and drink and carouse, and she knows if I'm going to go out with my buddies, I'm not going to come home smashed. I might come home with a toy, but I'm not going to come home smashed and be abusive to the family, and that could be hurtful to us. And she knows and trusts that I won't do that. And the worst thing I could come home with is a toy. Amy, what is the number one thing that you think is the most awesome thing about Jim being a Transformer collector?
Probably that it makes him happy. I know that, whenever he's having a day where he's down or depressed or whatever, that he's able to relax through the Transformers. He was able to kind of escape and not really have to think, when he's messing with them.
Oh. How about you?
You've met a lot of people. You still, it does make you happy. It decompresses you, but I find it fascinating that you know, honestly, a lot of famous people. You know, you, you know, I find that fascinating that he has people in his phone, on his Facebook, that follow him when he takes pictures. And I keep saying that one day he will make it, so to speak.
Make it.
You know,
Internet celebrity.
in a way, you kind of are.
No.
In a way, little tiny way.
I'm a truck driver.
There was a time, I don't know if James ever told you guys, but didn't someone recognize you at the airport and want to?
Yeah, that was another local collector, and actually, she watches the podcast.
Awesome. Hi.
I can't right now think of her name because I know too many people. But another local Indiana collector. I had never met previously. I was walking through my zone that day there at the Indy airport, and I just glanced over and I've seen Transformer shirts and Star Wars shirts and just fan shirts, Doctor Who, whatever. This was a BotCon shirt. That's a whole other level. It's like okay, that's specific. That's not just a Walmart shirt. You went to a convention. That is
you
a
had to go to BotCon to get that. Well,
and so I complimented her on her shirt, and she says, "Yeah, I went to I forget which year BotCon it was, and I was saying like, well, I went to the last two, and then we got to talking about the hobby, and then eventually segued onto the podcast and everything, and so she says, "That's where I've seen you." As soon as I said TFYLP, she says, "Yes."
Didn't you want to get like a selfie with you or something like that?
Oh yeah, we took a selfie. Yeah, it's on my Facebook. And my apologies if you're watching. I cannot remember your name because, like I say, I know too many people, and I'm really tired right now. But yeah.
And I think that was the first eye-opening moment that Melissa had whenever, like she said, the very first convention she ever went to was the last BotCon. And before the show really started and we was getting ready to leave, we got a chance to leave the Capture Prey booth for a while and actually walk around the dealer room. I told her, I said, I know this sounds weird, but there's going to be people that comes up to me. I have no idea who they are. They watch the show. They know me. And I said they'll either want to get their picture taken with me or believe it or not, get my autograph. And I'm like, she'll be like, no. And I'm like, yes. What was it, 30 minutes, 5 people. 5 people in 30 minutes. I mean, granted, it was a really busy time at BotCon, but she was blown away. She's like, you weren't kidding. and I'm like, I don't see that as celebrity status. I don't see myself as celebrity. I just like the fact that people watch this show and enjoy it, and they like me enough as somebody that's on the show to want to get their picture taken with me or something. I think it's cool. But in the end, like I keep saying, I'm just a truck driver. I know what I do every day. I know how menial my job is, and I don't want to put myself up on a pedestal when I know I'm not I'm not worthy of that. But I am proud of the fact that I've met a lot of really cool people doing this. And yet that's another reason why I continue to do the podcast is I meet really cool people. Not just you guys, but, I mean, hell, back in December we had David Kay, we had John Bailey on the show. It's you get to sit and talk with really cool people like that and get to know them, and they know you. They know your face. And I just find that really cool. She's gotten a look into the window that, whenever we first met and I told her about it, she didn't believe me. And then she saw it firsthand, and it's true. So I guess before we close, I want to ask, what do you like about Transformers specifically?
I don't know.
Just thinking about the makes her giggle.
I don't know.
I love her little laugh.
I don't know.
Poplets.
I really, there is no answer for me. It amazes me though how one character could be remade 5,000 different ways from 5,000 different companies. It's still Optimus Prime or Weird Wolf, or that is my version of this. Why do you need 7,000, of the same character? It bugs me to a point, but I don't really have an answer.
Why do you need 3 50 Shades of Grey books?
Really? You're going to go there?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Because there's more to them than meets the eye.
I feel so freed now.
50 Shades?
Shut up!
Let me show you my little room.
Moving on.
She started red. Look at her. She started red.
Thanks. All of America knows.
Duran's pleasure rooms.
The world.
Duran, I think your pleasure room's a little bit different, right?
Yes.
I just had a mental image taking Optimus Prime and rolling him down the back. It's like guilty pleasures.
Shut up.
I love you.
Transform and roll out.
Moving on.
Amy, what do
Yes.
you love about Transformers?
Oh God.
She likes Revenge of the Fallen.
I do. I have to admit, yes, on the movie I do.
Was it the Devastator scene at the end whenever the wrecking balls were knocking together?
No. Just the whole movie itself just had me laughing, which was, yeah. I don't know if there's any one thing. They're like puzzles to me, in the sense of trying to transform them. Then I get frustrated and have James finish it. I can't really think of anything in particular. Just that how makes him happy. Stop it.
Stop it.
And that's one of the things that he irritates the crap out of me with.
I'm just reminding you that you're the focus of my attention.
Uh-huh. But yeah.
Lucas, does you or Anna, your significant others, do they have anything they love about Transformers at all? Hard pressed.
No, I don't think. I think she probably had the same answer. That for her, that's not her interest. She has other interests. She likes them because they make me happy, and that's about it.
Anna?
I've been told that he's excited for when we do eventually, theoretically, probably maybe have a child, that I will be the one who really gets into getting toys with them and collecting them and, teaching them. I'll probably teach them how to customize and build models and all that stuff that he's not really interested in. That's actually decent for a kid's development from a cognitive perspective. So, yeah, I think he actually looks forward to that because he knows that
You'll be a cool mom.
He's seen me talk to other people's kids about Transformers before, and he knows that
So you're
the
saying
kids like it.
So you're saying that customizing and kit bashing might help with maybe dexterity and hand-eye coordination.
Absolutely, absolutely. Whenever anything's in the zone of proximal development, you just have to teach them to build a toy around it.
Yeah, just fine tune those motor skills.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well,
I'll make sure to say that in my next class.
There you go.
I believe that'll wrap us up this week. Before we go, I do want to point out that if you love this episode and what we do on this show, you can help us out up there at the top of the screen. There's a link that you can follow at patreon.com/TFYLP. There's different levels that you can contribute to this show on a monthly basis. And everybody that helps contribute to us already, thank you so much. And a little reminder that we now do TFYLP After Hours as a Patreon exclusive. So if you go to the Patreon and you become a Patreon, you will have access to episodes of TFYLP After Hours. It's kind of like a off the cuff version of TFYLP. We don't really have a topic. We'll just sit and talk. It's just us sitting around talking about whatever's on our mind. It might be Transformers, might be Star Wars, don't know. But it's extra content, 30, 45 minutes. The first one we did was about an hour, roughly. There's 2 episodes up there now. The second one came out, I'm wanting to say, I believe that I have them scheduled to drop on Wednesdays. And there's another one scheduled to drop this coming Wednesday. So go over to Patreon, become a Patreon, help support TFYLP, and get extra content that nobody else can see but our Patreons. It's a little extra thank you for helping us out each and every month. And as always, check out CapturePrey.com. Great toys, great prices, great service. CapturePrey.com, where you can save even more on orders of $150 or more with free domestic shipping. And now there's Stasis Pod, which you can order now and ship later and save more. Yes. And also Ripped Apparel. Use the promo code TFYLP Pod, all capital letters, all one word, TFYLP Pod, and save 10% on your order at Ripped Apparel. So without further ado, you guys have any closing thoughts? Amy, Melissa? No? Lucas, Anna?
I was just going to say, check out the Microcasters Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. It is a Facebook Live exclusive at the tftalk.net page. So check us out. This week we're going to be doing a Brave. Is that right, Ron?
Brave Dino Geist. I'm going to be taking it out of the package and showing everybody what a Brave toy entails. It's really cool. I actually used to have the instruction booklet to it, and Orson kept it, I think. But anyway, Brave Dino Geist. It's from the Brave X Kaiser line. So if you aren't really sure what Brave is, go back on TFYLP here. We did a couple episodes on the Brave series. You can learn more about the Brave series, and you'll be able to see one firsthand, well, on screen actually, whenever I take one out of the box, and we'll talk about it on Microcasters this week on Facebook Live. And a side note on Microcasters, it is Facebook Live. Whenever it airs live, it's only on Facebook. But now you should be able to subscribe to it on iTunes and download the entire video podcast of Microcasters through iTunes, available now. The first 3 episodes should be available. The first one you guys did, I believe, was Stereo Master from Magic Square, and the second one was Siege Ultra Magnus and Shockwave, and then the third one was Big Convoy. So if you're interested in the TFYLP Microcasters, check that out live on Facebook on Tuesday nights at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, and you can download them on iTunes as a video podcast. I just got the notification about 3 days ago, I think, that it is now live, so you should be able to find it on iTunes. So for those of you who can't watch it live or don't want to go to Facebook and don't have a Facebook account, you can still enjoy TFYLP microcasters. So I want to thank Amy and Melissa, both of you, for being on tonight. This is really special with Valentine's Day coming up. Just want to say I love you.
I love you too.
And thank you both for being on. Lucas, Anna, thank you both too. And thank you everyone for watching TFYLP. We'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Oh.
Bye, puppy.